Hello everyone and welcome back to Local Liberty. I'm your host Brian Saucier. It is October 21st, 2015, and this is a special message to the gun owners of Connecticut. I want to discuss the recent ruling come from the Second Appeals Circuit just a few days ago on October 19th. That, of course, many of you have probably already heard about the decision to uphold all of the laws that were passed in 2013. They were pretty much every single last one of them was upheld and deemed perfectly A-OK by three friendly judges in New York, I believe. Maybe one or two of them live in Connecticut. Doesn't really matter. I have a message for you guys tonight that I hope maybe will be something to give you guys a little different perspective to think about on all of this, and maybe something that's comforting if you're sort of not sure what to make all of this, or maybe it'll just plain old be disturbing. We shall see. So I'm gonna do the most important pieces of this right up front, kind of like a newspaper article. If I only got your attention for a minute or two, I want to make sure I get the most important stuff right off the bat. So here it is. The main message that I want to tell to gun owners out there, and anybody that believes in individual freedom: your rights are not dependent in any way on judges, governors, senators, representatives, bureaucrats, your neighbors, your groups, whoever happens to be screaming the loudest. Your rights don't depend on any of them. And also, your rights don't come from any constitutions or any laws. Your rights come from simply your existence as a human being. And that is a really important perspective to have, because really firmly grasping onto that point takes away so much power from people that want to abuse you and take advantage of you. If you basically take your freedom and take it out of their hands, that if your freedom is only in your hands, no one else is going to be able to touch it. And the second point is, it's very true, as we've seen, judges and senators and governors and representatives, they do have some power. They can say some words, they can scribble some things on paper, and gee, what do you know, there are all sorts of changes in the firearms that are available to defend yourself in Connecticut and in New York. For this, these two cases have been kind of merged together in the appeals process. So yes, what they're saying does matter, and they have the power to do certain things, but it's very important to keep separate from having the ability to do something and having the legitimate right to do something, having the moral authority to do something. That is something that no judge will ever have, or any politician. They will never have the right to determine how you can defend yourself and what tools you can choose to defend yourselves with. And this is something we covered we covered in detail in a very old episode. We'll link for you guys. Just when we talk about rights, I'm not talking about the right to a AR-15. I don't really believe in rights in that sense. I believe in rights as a negative sense. In other words, you don't have a right to life, you have a right not to be killed. And talking about guns, you have a right to your choice in how you defend yourself and your property, to have that choice not be interfered with. So that's what I mean when I keep talking about rights. So again, it's really important to separate the two things between a bureaucrat's power to do something and then their legitimate authority to do something. There's often a big gap in between them. All right, so with that out of the way, I'll sort of dive into a few other details I want to mention. First, I want to talk about what is a judge. To further our perspective on this ruling that three guys have bestowed on us, 57 pages of their opinion. And I think it's really apt word to call what these judges produce. They call it their opinion, and that's exactly what it is. So that's something to keep in mind for later. But what is a judge? A judge is nothing more than a politically connected lawyer. Now, there are lots of decent lawyers out there, lots of good people that are lawyers. There's even a few good people that are politicians. However, nobody in our society, nobody in our main culture believes that politicians or lawyers are cut from any special cloth. If anything, sometimes they have a negative reputation. But at very best, we could say politicians and lawyers are no better, no more honest, have no more wisdom, no more intelligence than any other profession, any other means of employment out there. In other words, these are just plain old individuals. They also happen to wear black robe costumes as part of their job. And that costume is an important part of their job because that sort of gets people to confuse a lot of the things I talked about at the beginning, which is the power to do something and the right to do something. We put an awful lot more behind that costume than we should. So, and these guys that produce a 57-page argument, if you want to call it, or again, it's their opinion, is the words they use. If you give anybody a 6-figure salary, a whole bunch of assistants and clerks and lawyers to work with them, and you give them a year's time, anybody can come up with 57-page argument for anything. So keep that in mind. Again, they are not any special superhuman class of intelligence or wisdom or morality. They are plain old folks. They are politically connected lawyers. That's what a judge is. And I'm going to talk briefly about the logic in this case. I'm more and more becoming less interested in arguing for the right to self-defense and using any detailed statistics or even just basic logic. I'm more inclined to just tell people, look, say I claim for myself by right of existence the ability to defend myself and my family how I choose, and that's it. Again, and so I'm less interested in arguing with people about why I should be able to own a certain kind of rifle or a certain capacity magazine. But that said, it's still worth it to be able to pick apart their arguments that they use. And I'm just going to focus on one. There's lots of different. I've already read some good articles of people picking apart this case, but I guess I'll add to that here. And I have one quote that I think is kind of at the heart of this entire case, and that is, and then I quote, "It is beyond cavil," and I had to look that word up, cavil means petty and unnecessary, "that both states," that means Connecticut and New York, "have substantial, indeed compelling, governmental interests in public safety and crime prevention." So what our friendly judge is saying here is that you are beyond petty and unnecessary. In other words, you're crazy if you question that the government has a compelling interest in public safety. And here's why I bring this up, because if you argue this, if you grant that to someone as a premise of an argument of why you should have why gun control should or should not occur, if you accept that premise, then I think in a lot of ways you've already lost the argument. And that's because this is something we've been hammering on a few different episodes here of this series. There is no such thing, just like there's no such thing as the needs of society. Society is made up of individuals. There is no such thing as the public. Yes, you can take a group of people and you can call them something. You can give them a label. You don't say, okay, this group we're going to call them society. We're going to call them public. But it's always important to keep the reference point that society or the public is just a group of individuals. So if you sort of reword this statement, you can say that basically the whole premise of their argument is saying that we can protect individuals, which is the public, is really just a group of individuals. We can protect individual safety by making it harder for individuals to keep themselves safe. If you reword their arguments on the terms, using real terms, then the arguments sound absurd. Now, of course, we're not going to keep any individual safer by making it harder for them to defend themselves, and that's what gun control is basically. Is giving you less options and less choice and less ability to defend yourself. And that's all. That's of course another lovely gem in this case. I don't have a quote for it, but basically another point they're saying is, well, we didn't take away all guns, so therefore this is not a severe restriction or something on the Second Amendment. I forget the exact wording. And then talking about the Second Amendment, this is a little more perspective I hope to add to this conversation. I hope as this case is progressing, everybody's sort of spidey sense is starting to tingle a little bit more that there's something amiss with this notion of the separation of powers that we have in the structure of our government. And this, it's at the federal government and at the state government. You have, we have our classic three branches. We've got a legislature that passes laws, an executive that signs them and then enforces them, and then you have a judiciary that that interprets the laws and judges the laws and handles disputes. And the judiciary also has a very crucial role that they get to determine exactly what the limits imposed on government, that would be the Constitution, they get to determine what that Constitution means. So in the end, what this whole separation of powers and what the Constitution is ultimately subjected to is we have the government, which has three branches, main branches, and those branches are all meant to check each other when in reality they all augment each other. They basically have formed, they're supposed to be, in theory, they're supposed to be competing when in reality they've created a cartel. You have a government cartel between the three branches. You have competitors that collude rather than compete. And the most fatal flaw in the whole design is the judiciary gets to be officially the judiciary gets to decide what the Constitution means. They have the sole interpretation of what the Constitution means. And again, talking about I hope that is, I hope as this case progresses, this is starting to send off some warning signals that something's not right here. It's systemically, that we have, basically this boils down to, we have a government that is supposed to provide the checks on itself, and it's also supposed to be its own interpreter of its powers. And that is a recipe for what we have seen transpire in this country for the last 200 some odd years of continual non-stop growth in the scale and scope and power of government. So all that said, I just want to make it clear that I support any peaceful means that we have available to us to solve the problems that we're facing, and that's why I have supported and I will continue to support groups like the CCDL, and I'll support their effort to pursue this through the most peaceful means we have available to us right now, which would be in the court system. So I'm not saying that this is without merit, and the more these groups pursue these, the more visibility they get, the more education that occurs, the more people they get to wake up and realize that, hey, maybe I need to fight my own fight on this a little bit, and I'm going to join with some others. And it's also an amazing thing just to be in a room to be in a group with people, to see that there are people out there that still believe in freedom. There are people out there that think like you, and we all sort of draw strength from each other. So I still wholeheartedly support what the various groups are doing to pursue things like this legal action. For me personally, my energy is more easy. I feel my energy is better put to use in things like I'm doing this show and spreading ideas that I think are important, and we can build a foundation off of for how to build a better society. So that's what I am. That's why I'm here tonight. And again, it's talking about peaceful means. That's why I'm recording this video on a Wednesday night for you guys. So my final thought I want to get in here is I just want to ask people to start thinking about what are you going to do when, or if the Supreme Court basically upholds this law, if they do, or if they decide not to hear it at all. I will be very happy and pleasantly surprised if things turn out better at the Supreme Court level. But I just want to get people to get in the frame of mind of what are they going to do if the Supreme Court just shuts us down. Then is that the end of this? Does that mean your children have to live with this for the rest of their lives? Does that mean that somehow these 9 politically connected, very highly politically connected lawyers in very fancy black robes, that all of a sudden they have obtained the authority to decide how you get to defend yourself? I just want to get people thinking about the difference between a bunch of bureaucrats having the power to do something and then having the real legitimate authority to do something over you. And I want you to question if that authority exists at all. So final thought on this is we are only going to be disarmed by our own voluntary cooperation. And when we decide that institutions like the Supreme Court or the legislature or the executive branch, that our own individual rights, our own humanity, our own existence trumps them no matter what. And again, this is outside of what they are physically capable of doing. The question is, what ought they be allowed to do? Because that's the question. That the answer to that question is going to decide where this gun control issue goes, and where a lot of other issues go, is what we as individuals decide we are going to tolerate from our alleged rulers. So again, this has been Brian Saucier with Local Liberty. Check out a bunch of other videos we've made on YouTube and Facebook. You can find us at Local Liberty, 2 words. Also localliberty.org. We're slowly building up the website. Thanks a lot for listening, and I hope this was useful. And we'll see you guys soon.